Good morning and welcome to the program Dialogue on Liberty Television. My name is Anthony Momodu, and definitely we're still in the spirit of the International Women's Day, and that's going to be our focus on today's edition. The theme for the 2020 is I Am Generation, and talking about realizing women's rights. That's the big theme for 2020, and based on that, we're looking at a very excellent topic today, looking at gender equality, the women's rights, protecting and how they can actually get their rights in the front border. On today's edition, it's going to be double-header this time around. I've got someone from the NOIPolls, Mr. Adedoyin, who is the man in charge of the corporate communications affairs of NOIPolls, and they did conduct a very compelling poll recently concerning equality, gender equality, and that's going to be the basis of our discourse today. And to my right, also I've got Dr. Ada Ike Akor, who is a mental health doctor trained in the US and has massive love for analysis on big issues, and that's why she's here to play a role for the women's rights. And though I thought I got a man by my side, well, he has decided to follow suit. You call it he, she, or she, he. There's a mix-up somewhere there. But to support the women. So we're going to be looking at the analysis, look at the doctor then. All right, nice to have you join us in the studios, and Doc.
Thank you, Anthony.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
All right, let's just begin with the polls. Tell us what's let's explain this survey on gender equality, because it's perfect. The timing was perfect, and the polls tells us that 66% of Nigerians say no gender equality. What does that translate to? 66% of Nigerians.
Yes, thank you very much, Anthony. And that's almost 7 in 10. And that is a cause for, for a more serious talk, If you look at the global scale index, you find out that the human capital wealth is distributed across female to male 36% to 62%. So women make up 36% of the global, human wealth capital index.
Okay.
Now that is very, very low, considering the fact that if they are able to be all that they can be, we are looking at an increase of $60.2 trillion, which is being lost every year due to the inequality gap. Okay. And this is, so looking at this potential that is being lost, this is basically, roughly 2 times what we are currently generating. So economically, it's not a viable, it's not wise, to continue this gender gap. Also, look at life expectancy. Since the movement of gender equality has increased over the years, you've seen also increase in life expectancy. In 2018 it was at 78.6,
okay,
and that rose to 78.87 in 1 year.
Okay.
So imagine what it could be when women are allowed, to be all that they can be. And I've been running through this poll. We've been going through it for about 3 weeks now, and one thing is clear, Anthony, and I say this, as a man, I think there is a scare from men that men are scared that women might be more if they are allowed to be all that they can be. And so looking at this 66%, so bringing it down to Nigeria, looking at 66%, who say there's no gender equality in Nigeria, it sort of tallies with what is going on a global scale, despite the fact that tradition, culture, society, institutions have actively suppressed women for years. And this is not actually a good thing for both parties, because on one side, women are not being allowed to be all that they can be due to institutionalized laws and doctrines and the rest. And men are sort of bending over backwards, trying to provide for both parties, trying to be both parties when they can only be as much as they can be. So looking at gender equality in Nigeria, I think is something that we need to really discuss and ensure that going forward we have a more sustainable country, a more sustainable economy, a more sustainable society, so that there is no pressure on one and we are living or neglecting the other. So it's not going to really all go well with our future or our generation, to come to continue this pattern, and this trend.
All right, looking at it, Dr. Adedoyin,
Yeah.
looking at statistics,
Yes.
66% you said.
Yeah.
But the polls also did reveal that 54% of women
Yeah.
in workplace have got the opportunity to be who they want to be and achieve their targets.
Yes.
So that tells us that in as much as, yes, there's inequality, women are fighting for equality, in Nigeria, 54% of people believe that women have equal opportunities.
Yes.
Do you see it in that light?
Yeah, well, first of all, let me congratulate Adedoyin on the excellent work that he did with this poll and his organization. It's just phenomenal work. Good job.
Thank you.
When it comes to gender inequality, I mean, there's so many parameters. Even on the like you talked about business. Yes, there have been gains that have been made in the last 20 years, but you still only have 2% of women heads of state. Only 2%. The other 98% are men. In terms of emotional health, women have 40% compared to male 21%. Disability from emotional health issues. When they do eventually get to see a doctor, they're stigmatized, more than men, and so, there's a lot of disparity. You still have 1 in every 3 women, being a victim of sexual or physical violence. That's 1/3 of all the women in the world. You have millions of girls, every year that have their genitals cut, in the name of, for different various reasons, cultural reasons, social reasons. And so, yes, there have been gains made, but we're still a long way off. But let me just say that we can't talk about equality, gender equality, unless we talk about equality for men too.
Okay.
We have to.
Equality for men.
Yes, we want to talk about equal opportunities, not necessarily equal outcomes. We want to create access to opportunity for our girls so that they feel that they can be everything, that they can possibly be, that their rights are protected. But we have to protect everyone's rights as well. We have to protect the rights of men, children, minority groups, so it's taken in context. Of a fairer society. What are we actually talking about? Treating other people fairly in every dimension, but more specifically to this topic, our women and our girls.
All right.
I really love, how to put it. Okay. There is a huge role that education has to play in this issue, because the more educated, so as it is now, there are more educated boys than girls. And so there's a push for, more girls to be educated, just to balance, so as to balance, that gap. Now, the more educated, and if you look at, so I keep going back to the economic significance and repercussion also of gender inequality. So you have more men, working, putting in extra hours, while forcing women who can be more to just the kitchen and the bedroom. Now, what that means is that you are basically cutting short, cutting in half. Because if you look at life expectancy, it's there about half, yeah? You're cutting in half, actively cutting in half, all that women can be. And you're also cutting in half all that you can also push out as a guy. Now, the reason I talked about education is because if you look at what stands now, the issue with women and getting jobs is one. Is either they're unemployed due to the fact that they do not have all it takes, academic, and other necessities, to get the job. They are underemployed because they feel so. Nigeria is at the point where we feel primary school is enough for a girl child, secondary school is enough for it. It is not. If we can push boys to as far as masters, push girls to as far as masters, so that they won't be underemployed, or they are unemployable because, you know, of the factors that I mentioned, you know.
Okay.
And so we are not particularly helping the matters if we continue. So it's a vicious circle. It starts from when they are very young, ensuring that as you're pushing the boys to school, you're also pushing the girls to school. And that's where she talked about equal opportunities for both, you know, genders, you know.
Okay.
And so then they grow up, and you have a more informed society where a lady knows that she can actually aspire for as much as a guy can also. Then they also grow further, you know, to adulthood, where they can begin to, you know, see themselves as healthy competition with each other, and not one is dominant and one is, you know, just secluded to you know, a corner. So it's important that we also ensure that, you know, education really needs to play a huge role in this. If you look at, I keep going back to this geopolitical zone very, very quickly. So 66% of Nigerians say that there is no gender equality in Nigeria. If you look at the breakdown according to geopolitical zone, the list is coming, the list is coming from the most educated geopolitical zone in the country, that's the Southwest.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
So you see that there is a direct correlation with education and gender equality.
Okay.
And also you see the same thing when it comes to the different groups. There's political, family, workplace, and society.
Okay.
In the workplace, where you expect that you have the highest level or the highest collection, you know, of academia, you also see gender equality taking the front role there. So it is important that, you know, we can't just leave gender equality and then leave education aside. They all go hand in hand.
But, I don't know.
Yeah.
He made mention of the fact that more has to be done in order to see how the gap can be bridged. In the survey done, 15% of Nigerians believe that through the legislative action by the National Assembly, gender equality can be achieved.
That's right.
Is it worrisome that there are barely 15% of Nigerians who feel that gender equality can be achieved via legislative action? Doesn't that make it the dream impossible?
Yes and no. You know, Senegal tried this experiment in 2010, and they, you know, made a certain percentage of their legislative positions in parliament to be women, you know, and they saw a 50-50, you know, a bridge in that inequality. There are those that oppose the quota system. You know, what they talk about, it was a form of quota, you know, where you say, you know, a certain number should be for women. There are those that oppose it on the grounds that it isn't merit-based.
Okay.
But the statistics are of the 36 countries that have at least 30% of their parliament women. 30 of them, you know, have gone through the quota system where they have reserved a number of seats, you know. So, you know, it's a complex issue, and there are points to be made on both sides. So it's reflective of our need for merit. That's what that says to me. It says people want equal opportunities, access, but not necessarily equal outcomes, you know. And so it shows that Nigerians, what that indirectly tells me that is that Nigerians still believe in merit. They believe you should earn your way whether you're a man or a woman. But, you know, we found traditionally that doesn't work. So could it be a time-focused quota, you know, that isn't just open-ended, you know? And is it time for us to consider doing what Senegal did, you know, and you know, make it mandatory to have a certain number of women in parliament? Will that really mean that we get the best candidates? What if a man is more qualified than a woman, but because of the role of gender, he's deprived of that position?
Okay, I want to stick with you. Do you think it's okay? The fact that, yes, we're talking about gender equality, do you think it's consistent with nature and the reality that men and women have to be equal. Should that be the goal? Should that be the essence of gender equality? Must it be that we're equal? Because in life we've seen that not everybody is a doctor, not everybody is a pharmacist or a lawyer. So it means that we are not technically equal per se. So are we forcing against nature?
Well, the thing is, I mean, there's certain things that men do better, and there's certain things that women do better. Like women bring babies out, and they push them out during labor and all that. Men are stronger physically, generally, even though you have some strong women. I think it's about being the best you possible.
Okay.
And society giving you the opportunity to be the best you possible. That's how I see my own view. It's a question of fairness. Who are we treating unfairly, and how can we bridge that gap? When I think about gender equality, I think about the issue of fairness. We're losing $200 billion every year because we're not permitting the women to, take on roles that are traditionally male-dominated roles. So economically,
Those that actually do not favor the female gender, should we say for the sake of gender equality, we should let them have their way?
They should have the opportunity to prove themselves, right? Okay. And it's that lack of opportunity that is the inequality we're talking about. Whether they'll make it at the end with that opportunity is left to be seen. But when they're not, the thing is the cards, the deck of cards are stacked against them, so they don't even have that opportunity. Even from, like Adedoyin is saying, even from family levels, they're told they should be under and not aspire to greatness. And so, that becomes a loss for us financially and as a country and developmentally. Yeah.
All right, let's look at other highlights of the polls. Which other highlights would you say is more stunning and probably something that the government and institutions should look at? Especially when you look at, like she said, looking at politics, family, and workplace. When the poll asked people, do you agree or disagree that workplace there's equal opportunity? We've got in politics, 61% said no, while we've got 34% that said yes. They're also looking at the family angle of it. We've got 57% saying no to it, and 35% saying yes to this. And also the workplace, 38% is saying no, while we've got 54% saying yes to it. What does this translate to in terms of Nigerians and how they perceive gender equality?
So I think gender equality in Nigeria is something that has been is a fallacy that has been made true over the years. Yes, with support from traditional methods, sometimes religious misquotings, and all. So take for instance our sister nation Rwanda. Rwanda implemented a policy where they increased the number of women in their parliament, and we saw a significant growth in economy. 1. 2, it's been proven scientifically that women actually make better leaders than men. And so men see that, and then they are defensive.
Can we say women are probably too over-domineering or too aggressive when they've got power? Probably that's why the folk is trying to restrict them.
Now the thing is, because of how much they have to fight to either get that power, that position, or to keep it, to some women that sort of extra level of protection is necessary.
So that's what
because you would take, for instance, go to the street and you see a woman driving a very big car. One, they say is either her husband or she slept to get it. How many people would actually tell you that she worked, she experienced sleepless nights, she actually did all she could to get that? That sort of levels of thing. So it's a mindset thing, and before it gets to the legislative, cadre, it is something that we also need to correct in our society and in our cultures. So starting from when a woman gives birth and your next question is waiting you born. You know, so it starts from there.
Okay.
Because there are communities in Nigeria who still see a girl child, a girl baby, irrespective of the potential of what she can be, as inferior. And so parents keep on giving birth until they get a boy and then they celebrate. We must change that.
Okay.
In a process where, you know, like she rightly put it, it's not an issue of women would be aggressive or, yes, we're still going to get to that, you know, where women actually play an active role in this inequality. You know, but before then, let's look at what society has told them that they would be. So I was seeing a movie, Wonder Woman, and I imagined women growing up in a community where they are told that you are strong, but not told you are a weak vessel. When they are told that you can be all that you can be. Do you know that the IQ, the mentality of such women will change from what we have now, where women have been told for thousands of years, you are a weak vessel, you are supposed to be in the bed and in the kitchen, your work is just to take care of the home. They do not aspire beyond their reality. And that is what we need to change. We are saying that let us have an equal playing ground. If a woman says that she wants to climb the NEPA pole, if that is what she wants, you don't say that that is a job for a man. And so we need to go back to our legislation. You can see from the data, a lot of it is men saying no. Look at politics. Look at yes, look at politics. How many men voted for the female presidential candidate that we had? We had more men than women. So I'm going back to the women part now and how they support inequality. We have asked a question. Do you think there should be gender equality in the country? And we see 20% of women. That's roughly about 40 million Nigerian women. If you look at 200 million, you know, that's about 40 million Nigerian women who say no. They do not support gender equality. Okay. That is a problem. Because if you have 40 million Nigerian women who are actually actively saying no against this, then there's a problem.
All right, Dr. Looking at the fact that, yes, we've got women saying no to equality between men, what does that perception tell us? And there's this regular saying that women are the greatest competition and greatest hurdle why they cannot aspire and reach great heights. What do you think is the reason? Is it the natural makeup of a woman to be very protective, very territorial? Are these the reasons?
Well, some of the reasons might be, you know, women are saying, I may not vote for you necessarily because you're a woman, you know. Okay. You know, so that's one thing. Generally, what influences how many women get into areas of leadership in politics are the party chair people. That's what the studies suggest. Okay. The chairs of these parties, the leaders of these political parties are naturally affiliated to people that look and sound like themselves. And since most of them, if not all of them, are men, so we have the presidential candidates. It's amazing that we even had a female presidential candidate. Nigeria should lead, you know. I mean, why should Liberia have a female president and we don't have a female? We've never had a female president. Is Liberia, they looked up to us during their war and we gave them so much resources. Why can't we have that? Why are their men different from our men, you know? Our men are as good, if not better, in my opinion. I think our men are great. You know, so, you know, we have to change the mindset. You know, but it doesn't mean that if you don't have the qualities, you should just say gender equality and that's like your line and then you just get everything, you know, you want. We have to have qualified candidates. But, you know, what changes it also is, you know, you have training for young people. Instead of saying when you're about to choose university, go and do medicine, go and do law. You say, be the next president. Be. And then even if you're not the actual person, you know, you can also support. You know, you have wonderful teams that support the candidate. You can get involved in advocacy, you know, in campaigning and in different forums. So, you know, depending on your skill set that you bring to bear. So I think that I would like to think that's part of the reason. Another thing that was shown is that the media for female candidates tends to be hypercritical. compared to male candidates. And so there's an unconscious bias. That's what the studies suggest. Why the female candidates don't have it rougher than the male candidates. There's that assumption that because they're female, that they will not be able to combine,
the burden of leadership.
The burden of leadership and home tasks, and somehow that makes them more masculinized. And also, women that do attain that level of leadership, they're not given as much coverage or positive coverage as their male counterparts. These are some of the reasons that studies have suggested that you have that disparity.
All right, we'll be going for a quick break. You're watching Dialogue on Liberty Television, and we're looking at protecting the women's right and how to achieve the very best for the women gender. I'll go for a quick break. When we come back, discuss would continue.
Liberty TV, voice for all, vision for all. Liberty TV, voice for all, vision for all.
You're still watching Dialogue on Liberty Television, and we've been discussing how best to protect the women's right. And it's been said that 23% women earn 23% less than men globally. That's a very worrying statistics. And also to let you know that women occupy just 24% of parliament in the world. But before we went to break, she made mention of the fact that the media also has to be blamed for the perception or the impression they create about women. In as much as, yes, we want to agree with her, wouldn't you say that women also are guilty of also depicting themselves as probably just sexual figures? When we see adverts, when we see their dress sense and all that, they tend to want to use the body to probably get what they want, seduce the men, get their ways through things. Wouldn't you say the women also, through their own actions, have not helped the equality campaign?
Yes, so that is the flip side of the discussion, you know. It is true, but there's a reason. But first off, let me get to women who...
There's a reason why they...
Yes, for that.
What's the reason?
Yes, but let me get. Now, I'm not making a case for the other side. Yes.
Okay.
But imagine, people or ladies being pushed down to a point where the only thing that can give them what they want is to look at the other side, that's using their bodies.
Okay.
In a situation where, I was going to talk about, women who are actually at the top cadre,
Okay.
who, for reasons best known to them, find it difficult pulling up other women,
Okay. Yeah.
and would rather pull up other men.
Okay.
We talked about women in leadership roles being antagonistic and the rest. There's still some truth to that, because the space, the space that women occupy in top positions
okay.
is so small that they have to basically fight themselves, fight against men, you understand, to keep that role. And so bringing up other women to sort of compete with them in that so small space, is somewhat an issue for them. You understand? Now, this translates to those who are not on the upper cadre.
Okay.
Now, for years, there are people who have made this debate, that, or made the case for women who sort of get what they want through their bodies. That what if they had been empowered to a point where they didn't have to? What if certain privileges, certain rights had not been denied, such that they didn't have to do that? Now, it's not to say that every woman who is out there, who shows off her body, is doing it because she does not have the right to. But I'm saying that there are lots of women, social night workers, who are in that position because of certain rights, certain privileges that have been taken away from them.
The men folks, why they also go through challenges? Why didn't they not also play that role like the women?
So for the men folk, it's a little easier for us, and I say easier with a pinch of salt. It is as a man, it is not easy. I'll tell you that as a man, it is not easy. But we don't have to we don't have to fight against people telling us no. We don't have to fight against society, institutions, culture pulling us down. We have that leverage already.
Okay.
You understand? So it's like putting a man and putting a woman on a racetrack. A woman she has societal weight holding her down.
Right.
Institutional weight holding her down. Religious weight holding her down. Cultural weight holding her down. And you're putting them on the same, and you're expecting the same outcome. You understand what I'm saying? Those are the barriers that we need to cut first. And then when those things are taken off, let's put them on the same track. Let's see who comes, whoever wins, make the person the winner.
The question I wanted to ask you was, in the beginning, they were given that opportunity to lead. And what turned out? You ate what you were not supposed to eat, right? Alright, just to get to you. Would you say men are greater competition to women, or women themselves are greater competition to women folks?
I think everybody is complicit, in my opinion. I think men have to take responsibility, and also women have to take responsibility.
Okay.
We get the leadership that we deserve, the leadership that we ask for, and so I think when it comes to having more women in leadership,
especially, let's also look at your health sector, leadership position in the health sector.
Yeah.
How has it been within the health sector?
I mean, it was just in the 1940s, that women were allowed to go to university in the West. Come on. So even higher education is just a recent thing of the last 70 years.
Okay.
Considering the thousands and thousands of years that we've been, this world has been around. So there have been institutionalized prejudices that prevent women from attaining. Look at girl marriage, for instance. You can't talk about education and wealth without girl marriage. Every year a woman spends after primary school, she raises her income by 15%. Not just her income, but the income of her family, of the community at large. Women, when they're allowed to negotiate for peace, the peace is more sustained. Violence is prevented. These are statistics. I'm not just saying these things because I'm a woman. You know, these are studies. You know, and so
as the financial part, I'm going to get back to you in terms of when women make money. Because for those who are married, we know that the women's money is their money, but the men's money is our money.
Yes.
Why is it that way? And so how does it translate that women actually contribute to the economy when their money is their money, but the man's money or their husband's money is their money?
You know, there's certain
inequality there.
Well, you know, I think that varies from family to family. I think there's some women whose money is everybody's money.
Okay.
You know, I talk about myself, you know, I mean, my money is not just my money is everybody's money. So I can't really generalize. But if you say that that's a trend, that's something that we need to look at. Why is that the case? Could that be another aspect of culture that we need
saying the man has to...
Yes, the stereotype, that we need to break the mold. You know, so that's what I'm talking about, equality, fairness for everyone.
Okay.
You know, that's why I'm looking at fairness in general, you know. And then women who have had institutions stacked against them, you know, like Adedoyin is saying, like all these weights tying them down. So disproportionately they're affected. You know, so this is your money is my money, and your money is your money, and my money is everybody's money. This is the institution that's against women, you know, so it's a bigger animal, you know. And so, you know, that you know, in emotional health, when they eventually get treatment, they're overdiagnosed. They tend to be given worse diagnoses than they actually have. They're over-medicated, so they tend to be given, if they needed only one drug, they tend to be given 2, 3, 4 different medications. So the stigmatization, it doesn't end. It doesn't end with the girl child and child marriage. It continues even with the health. You know, and so it's terrible.
In your sector, the health sector, do we see inequality in terms of female doctors, male doctors, surgeons, and
absolutely. I mean, you have far more. You know, but the thing is, the gap is being bridged. You know, because women are now allowed to compete in university, one-on-one, go to university, which was never the case before. They were just banned from going to university. Now they're going to university. In some countries, you have, like in the US, you have 62% of graduates are women, you know, so more women are going into medicine, you know, than ever before. The last two decades has seen growth in terms of, in medicine, of women in general, but there's still a lot of disparity in other areas that we can't ignore.
Okay. All right, talking sports, I can't help but bring in sports into it. There have been a lot of cries. Just yesterday, the U.S. captain female team, Rapone, refused the apology by the U.S. Soccer Federation because they had this part about inequality in terms of payment, what they paid the female players to what they paid the male national team players. What do you think? Do you think that inequality is justified if you look at the intensity the men play football with and the skills they bring to bear in comparison with what women put out on the pitch of play? And precisely, the women football just started, has not been as long as the male football. So are we being fair also when we at times try to equate both parties?
So the gender pay gap is an issue that that on both sides of the divide, of people who say it exists and doesn't exist, you know, you have, you know, really valid points.
All right.
Take for instance the issue of football. On the average, men generate more money.
All right.
That is where we should start looking at it from. Men generate more money, you know, into the game than women. That's because more men and women, more followers, you know, prefer to watch male football than female. Now, you cannot expect, because of the difference in inputs, to have the same outputs. It's not going to work. Same thing with the global gender pay gap. If you have a particular gender putting in more hours, putting in more resources, bringing in more value to the work ecosystem, you can't, because of gender equality, expect that other women who are not doing the same thing will be paid the same. It's a value thing. It's not a gap thing.
Okay.
You understand? And so it is when women are bringing in as much into the game as men, that's when we can begin to talk about the equality in pay. If that disparity is, where do you expect, the fund to come from?
All right, let's look at now. I want us to look at what women can do right now. Zoning in on Nigeria, for instance, we're going to 2023 presidential elections. Looking at the women folk, how key is it for them to start mobilizing not just the women folks, but going to the grassroots and beginning to campaign, sensitize people that it's time for the women folk to stake a claim for the presidency? How realistic is this?
Yeah, I mean, it's realistic, it's doable, but we need enough men to, to support. Without the support of the men, it can't happen. First of all, we need more female party chairs or deputy chairs.
All right.
At that level of leadership, they're the ones that mobilize and determine who the candidate is going to be. In many cases, we need finances, so we need to remove that barrier of finance. We need to have enough men who are willing to finance good female candidates. And so because finance has been shown to be one of the major barriers. Also, when it comes to raising money for campaigns, we need to piggyback off of women's groups, to gain traction and momentum, and promote the idea even to the grassroots of a female candidate. It's easier when you already have women at the local government level to pull them up into national politics. So if there are women that are viable, who already have leadership experience at the state or local level, they should also be considered as good potential candidates for a national leadership positions.
Okay, let's go back to the polls now. What are the highlights of the polls, like recommendations based on the statistics NOIPolls have given to us this morning?
So the leading recommendation is on girl-child education, generally on female education, because from our polls you can see that education literacy and exposure play a huge role. Play a huge role in moving this agenda forward. So it's important that we know that the more educated, the more literate, the more exposed the female folk are, the better opportunities they can vie for, the more things they know, and the better chances they stand. Just a quick run through perceived reasons. So we had asked a question: what are the perceived reasons why gender should be considered, when deciding leadership positions? And number one, at 24%, we see some leadership sensitive, and I have a problem with that. What position can we say is really gender sensitive? What leadership position can we not find a woman who is
suitable
for that role? And then we have, of course, 20%.
Can we look at the fight against insurgency? Can women lead the fight against insurgency?
Absolutely.
Now, the question is, why can they not?
Absolutely. The answer is absolutely. Emphatically, yes.
I'd like to know
absolutely.
You just said it, that women are more territorial, they're more protective.
Women achieve better and more sustained peace.
That's more emotional.
No, it's not a matter of emotion.
How emotional am I?
So would you suggest that the fight against insurgency, a woman should lead the fight rather than Lieutenant General Tuku Burutai?
Well, the statistics say that the peace is better. It's longer.
All right.
And the wars are more prevented when women are involved. So I would suggest, if Boko Haram is a problem, you get a lot. You double the number if there are any women at all in cabinet, or you double or triple the number, because the statistics suggest that the peace is won more because of women are able to find middle ground. Men are, stubborn and adamant in their own position, and that's what the research is saying.
And Anthony, we've tried this for 50-something years, using those men.
Okay.
It won't hurt to bring a woman. Let's even see what will happen. It won't hurt. So it's important that, as much as we are saying, oh, this is a man's job or a woman's job,
okay.
Far more important than that is looking for who is most competent.
Okay.
To fight that job. You find diamonds in unexpected places. And so it's important for us to have.
We need more female generals.
Okay.
Brigadier generals. We need women.
Major
generals. We need more women there so that they can be part of that negotiation with Boko Haram. It's a negotiation. Military alone will not be enough to solve that problem.
All right, it's been fantastic talking with my two guests. To my right is Dr. Ada Ikeako, who is a mental health doctor and also a very fine analyst in terms of current affairs. And to my left is Adedoyin. I have to take my time. Betiku, right? He's the communications manager of NOIPolls, the leading West African polling survey firm. And just to put into context, as we celebrate women, we have to celebrate. Give us more info about the lady behind the mask for NOIPolls and why we have to celebrate her.
Yes, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, founded NOIPolls.
Oh wow!
And she's such a leader. When it comes to issues like this. Currently, she's a member of financial cabinet. For South Africa.
That's very sad.
Yeah.
Why South Africa? To Nigeria.
Again, it's the Nigerian factor.
All right. We want to say big ups to Ngozi wherever she is. We want to say
Thank
we're proud of
you.
you. We're proud of what you're doing in South Africa. But remember, home is sweet home, and thanks for the great job you're doing. All right, we're celebrating all the beautiful women in the African continent, especially the Nigerian state, where the most beautiful women you can find them. Thank you very much. My name is Anthony Momodu, saying thank you for being part of Dialogue, Africa's most compelling talk show. Let's do this again next time. Bye.